Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us today for lunch for this great workshop, Teaching with Wikipedia. My name is Doug Parada. I'm from the American Culture Center. Glad to see all of you here. Just want to start off with a quick intro. Looks like all of you got lunch, so I'm glad about that. So today's workshop is going to look both mechanically at how do you create Wikipedia pages as classroom assignments, and we're also going to be showing you some examples both from an instructor and from students. And so today we're joined by Helene Blumenthal, Dr. Helene Blumenthal, who is the Wikipedia Student Program Manager over at Wiki Education. We're also joined by Nanette Coleman, who is a PhD candidate from sociology, and Corliss Lee, who is from the library, an instructional librarian, and our wonderful liaison for the American Cultures requirement. And like I said, my name is Doug, and I'm from the American Culture Center, and we are the home to the graduation requirement, which is known as the American Cultures requirement, which is structured around race, culture, ethnicity in the U.S. And so what brings all the four of us together is this has been something that's been sort of brewing with American Cultures for quite some time. We've been offering Wikipedia pages as classroom assignments. And so when you go on our website, you can see some of those examples there. I just have the ACES student projects here. The American Cultures Engaged Scholarship is also a program that connects students in American Cultures courses to community programs and community organizations, community members, to build out these narratives that more accurately reflect who we are as an American society and what the progress is and what the challenges and the complications of race in American youth. And so I'll just have that up here. I want to make one quick plug, which is to our to an edit-a-thon. How many of you went to the Wikipedia edit-a-thon last year? Joanne? No? How many of you knew about the Wikipedia edit-a-thon last year? Okay, so a few of you did. So I'll just quickly tell you about that. This event is also connected to the Wikipedia edit-a-thon, and that's an annual event every year that's hosted here at Berkeley, both for newcomers, for regardless of where you are with Wikipedia. There will be some editing of pages during that day, and it's sort of Wikipedia's sort of has like these has these days like nationally going on, in which students are editing and learning how to edit different Wikipedia pages. So, like I said, the American Cultures requirement is built around race, culture, and ethnicity in the U.S. and building out more of that complete narrative of what it means to be American this day and age. And to that vein, the Wikipedia edit-a-thon is also building out more of a reflection of who we are. Both the two themes that we have this year and we've had for the past couple of years is art and feminism and race and justice. So it's really building out some of those pages. And so we'll look at some examples a little bit later, but for now I'm going to pass it over to Helene.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, cool. I was just joking with Doug and Nanette, but I'm actually pretty loud, so not quite sure I need the microphone, but I'll take advantage of it here. So thank you, Doug, so much for introducing us and for inviting me to talk here today. Thank you to Nanette and Corliss for joining us. You guys have been incredible partners for us at Wiki Education, so I'm glad that I don't have to be the only one up here talking about how great this program is, that we could get some other voices to corroborate that. Again, I'm Helene Blumenthal. I am the Wikipedia Student Program Manager at Wiki Education. I'm actually a Berkeley alum. I got my PhD here in history. I finished in 2012. I spent many an hour here in Dwinell, so it's nice to be back in my kind of educational home base. And so just briefly, let me tell you who we are, what is Wiki Education. When you sort of get down the path of anything Wikipedia, wiki related, there's a lot of different wikis you will hear, wiki projects, wiki sites, etc. But so not so important to know all the distinctions, but I just thought I'd sort of give you a foundation. So we are actually a small nonprofit organization based here right in San Francisco, right in the Presidio near the Golden Gate Bridge. And our mission as an organization is to bridge the worlds of academia and Wikipedia. We do that through a few major programs. The Wikipedia Student Program, which is what I'm going to talk to you guys about today, and our Wikipedia Scholars and Scientists, and our Wikidata programs. Just briefly about those two programs, those are actually ones in which Wiki Education staff train subject matter experts like yourselves to contribute to Wikipedia. They are run as professional development courses, often in partnership with institutions, universities, academic associations. So I know we're finishing one up at the University of Massachusetts Lowell. We ran one with the National Archives. And so if you're interested in learning more about that, let me know and I can put you in touch with the people who coordinate that program. But today, what I'm going to talk to you guys about is a program that I am in charge of, and that's the Wikipedia Student Program. And essentially, what is that program? And that's the program where we run the Wikipedia assignment. And what is the Wikipedia assignment? Well, it's a pretty simple but powerful concept. So you, the instructors, basically have your students contribute to Wikipedia as a graded assignment in your course. And you do this, we help, and Wiki Education as an organization helps to facilitate this endeavor through our programmatic support, which by the way is all free. So this is fully funded by grants and institutions. So the student program is free. The Wikidata, Wiki Scholars and Scientists program is actually fee-based. But the one I'm talking about today, everything I'm saying here is entirely free. So it's a question I get a lot, so I figured to get that out there front and center. And so you might ask yourself, sorry, and then let me back up here a little bit. The program has been around since 2010. It started actually at the Wikimedia Foundation, which is the organization right here in San Francisco that runs Wikipedia. And then program split off in 2014 when we founded Wiki Education, the nonprofit that I'm representing today. But the program itself has been around for almost 10 years. In that time, we have supported about 3,200 courses. We have supported roughly 66,000 students. Those students have contributed to about 83,000 articles on Wikipedia, and they have collectively added about 60 million words to Wikipedia in that time. And that's actually not including the current fall 2019 term, so that number is even a little bit bigger. We're regularly now supporting about 400 courses a semester. The program has grown dramatically even since when I started in 2014 when we were supporting about 100 courses a semester. The last statistic I'm going to mention is one that I think is incredibly important and will speak to a lot of the other things I'm going to discuss later on in this presentation. So through a variety of research, we actually found out last year that 19% of all new editors to Wikipedia, and so when I say editor in Wikipedia language just means anybody who makes an edit to the site. So anybody who goes to Wikipedia and contributes are called editors. People who do that regularly are called Wikipedians, just to define some of the terminology that I'm going to use today. But anyway, so about 20%, about 1/5 of all new contributors to Wikipedia are coming from the Wikipedia Student Program. And while that number I think is impressive in and of itself, it's important for another reason. So Wikipedia has a bit of a demographic problem when it comes to its contributor base. Wikipedia has about 30,000 active editors, so those are people who are contributing on a regular basis. It's actually a pretty small number of people considering the size and scope of Wikipedia. And about 80-90% of that population is white, male, and Western. And so as a result of that, you get a lot of bias and a lot of content gaps arise on Wikipedia. So by virtue of the fact that 60% of college campuses are roughly women, that number is reflected in our student program. So about 50 to 60% of all the students we support are women. So just so that means those of those 20%, new editors. 60% of them are women. So we're really dramatically changing the face of the editor base for Wikipedia, and that has a lot of consequences. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more as we move on. By the way, if you have any questions, please stop me. I would rather address your question and rather than move on and return to it half an hour later. So please do feel free to interrupt me. Okay, so what can you do for Wikipedia? So I started touching on this a little bit. You might say to yourself, well, Wikipedia has over 5 million articles at this point. It's been around for 20 years. What can I do? What can my students actually do for this website? Let's face the reality that there's still some lingering, I think, misunderstandings of what Wikipedia is and some pushback in academia toward Wikipedia. Although I think that that has shifted quite a lot, even in the 5 years that I've been with this organization, recognizing the value of Wikipedia. So what can you do for Wikipedia? Well, the answer is quite a lot. So 5 million, yes, it's a big number, but at the end of the day, it's just a number. It's not reflective of Wikipedia's scope and quality and inclusiveness. And so Wikipedia is still rife with content gaps. Despite the fact that there are 5 million articles, it's also the encyclopedia that strives to be the sum total of all human knowledge. Well, that sum total is constantly growing, so Wikipedia constantly needs to grow with it. But again, these content gaps are still persist on Wikipedia, and they're especially pronounced in, and I think Doug, sort of touched on this a little bit when it comes to covering subject areas that are dealing with traditionally underrepresented or marginalized populations. So women, minorities, people with disabilities, and just even academic subjects in general. So getting back to the fact that that editor base is 80-90% white, male, and Western, Wikipedia is created and run by volunteers. So people write about the things that they're passionate about. So there's a lot of really well-developed articles on Wikipedia about, say, Star Wars and Star Trek and military history. And this is not to say there are not good articles on other subjects, but the demographics being what they are, you have less well-developed coverage, say, on women's health in Uganda or something like that. And so this is where your students have a real chance to make an impact. So by the way, another example, just to give you a sense of the content gaps that exist on Wikipedia. Wikipedia currently has 18% of Wikipedia's biographies are women, only 18%. It's pretty bad. And that number is growing. It's gotten better. A few years ago, it was 15%. So we're moving in the right direction, but we're not at 50%. There's actually a lot of movement around improving Wikipedia's coverage of women biographies. But as I said, it's a really strong example of where you see those content gaps. So you and your students, you guys are perfectly positioned to help remedy these content gaps. You, as members of this great university, you have access to unnamed volumes that are behind paywalls for most of the rest of the population. And you, as subject matter experts, as instructors, have the ability to guide your students toward those articles that are most important to your field and that need the most work on Wikipedia. So you guys are incredibly well positioned to tackle these content gaps on Wikipedia. Okay, so that's what you can do for Wikipedia, but what can Wikipedia do for you? So it's, I think the great thing about this project, about this Wikipedia assignment, is that it's a real two-way street. It's not just you guys adding your subject matter expertise and having your students adding a subject matter expertise to Wikipedia, but it's an incredibly pedagogically valuable experience for the instructor and student alike. I hope Nanette will corroborate that when she talks to you guys. She's gonna get up here and be like, "It's terrible." But I'm glad that you're gonna have somebody who's run the assignment many times with us now to really talk to that. Because I can talk to you about it in broad strokes. And so I'm going to address, first I'll address your students. What does this project do for your students? There's a myriad of reasons why this project works so well. So I'll just give you what I think are the highlights. So I think the first and most critical one is digital literacy. I was at Wiki Conference North America just about a month ago. That's the annual conference of all things like Wiki related. And the theme this year was information literacy and the reliability of information. And somebody said at the conference that digital literacy is a basic human right. And that has really stayed with me since then. It's something I've been thinking about a lot, managing this program in our current, our current situation, political and otherwise in the world. But having the ability to discern reliable information from unreliable information, especially in an online environment, it's a necessity for today's students to have that skill. It's sometimes easy to think that, because your students might be tech savvy, that they're also information literate, but that's not the case at all. It's a skill that has to be honed and developed like any other skill, like any other form of literacy. And the Wikipedia assignment excels at this. So because Wikipedia has such strict rules and regulations around sourcing, what constitutes a good and reliable source of information, it really forces students to think about sources in a way that they haven't, I think, in the past. And so they move from consumers of information to producers of information, but that in turn makes them better consumers of information once they've learned how to become an information producer as well. And they start to look at things that they're reading online with a much more critical and questioning eye. So I think that is, probably above all, one of the biggest strengths of the Wikipedia assignment. I think secondly, and a lot of these are connected, so I'm probably going to return to them over and over again, is this idea of expertise. So I actually just talked about this at Wiki Conference North America. Wikipedia, in many respects, sort of democratizes expertise and what it means to be an expert. And students really pick up on this. Very rarely do they have a chance to publish something that other people will read other than their professor. Right? So the traditional writing assignment, and I'm not here to denigrate the traditional term paper, it has its value, but it's read by one person and tossed at the end of the semester. With the Wikipedia assignment, students have a chance to contribute something that will live beyond the class. They can show it to their friends and their family, and they do it all the time. I hear this over and over again. And they take great pride and a sense of accomplishment from that. And so do the instructors. They develop a great sense of pride in the work that their students do on Wikipedia. But getting back to that expertise, students feel like an expert, even if it's just for a couple of months, while they're doing this Wikipedia assignment. They feel like they're doing something that their professor does. On Wikipedia, credentials don't matter. It doesn't matter that they don't have a PhD in a subject, or they don't have a master's, or not, a university hasn't, dubbed them an expert. They can do it. So it doesn't matter. As long as you follow the rules of Wikipedia, and you have a user account, you can make that edit. So there's a bit of a leveling of the playing field in a way that's actually engenders excitement into the course. And again, this is one that's been coming up more and more in the past few years, this sense of the students, feeling like experts and owners in what they're doing. Okay, so that's the student side of things. And as I said, I can talk about, there's so many other skills that the students obtain from learning how to contribute to Wikipedia, but I think, again, those are some of the most critical ones. Okay, well, what about you guys, the instructors? Why should you be doing this, right? After all, it's a new project. It's a whole new thing to learn. Like, you've got so much else on your plate. Why adopt the Wikipedia assignment? And it's not an assignment to be undertaken lightly. It is a commitment. So why should you do this? So I have a couple of quotes from instructors that I wanted to share. Let them do the talking for me. So the first one is an instructor wrote, the Wikipedia assignment made me an active participant in the learning process. I wasn't just teaching, I was learning the ropes with the students, how to be a Wikipedian, and that experience made it more exciting for me in ways that carried over to my interactions with the students. Another professor wrote, there are a few assignments that incorporate all of my core skills: teaching critical thinking, practicing research skills, writing intensive work, facilitating collaboration between students, teaching practical skills, and incorporating equity work in a succinct manner. And the cherry on top is the extent to which the students were engaged and created thoughtful and significant edits. So, that's a couple of things. So we run all of the stuff that I'm sharing with you today is straight from professors. We run an instructor survey every semester. So we try to gauge the program every semester and see what's going on in there. So again, I think the Wikipedia assignment engenders a level of excitement in the class that more traditional assignments don't quite get at. You are going to be learning beside the students a little bit, especially the first time you do this. I will say, this is a common question that we get. We do not expect our instructors to become Wikipedians, to become Wikipedia experts, by no means. 99% of the instructors that we work with have never edited Wikipedia and never will. And that's not the expectation of the program. The program, we rely on you guys for your subject matter expertise. We are the Wikipedia experts, so, and that's what you should use us for. And that's why we exist. And so we're relying on you as subject matter experts to tell us what areas of Wikipedia need improvement in your particular field of expertise. So that said, we expect you to have, learn a few of the basics. You are going to be learning beside your students, and that can be a little bit scary. But I think as long as you approach it with the right mindset, it can be an incredibly exciting experience for student and instructor alike. The second thing, just like students are kind of tired of writing the same old term paper term after term, I hear from instructors that you guys are tired of grading the same old term paper term after term. So it's a nice pedagogical departure from that for you to do something new and pedagogically innovative in your course. And the last one, I think this one is super interesting, is that it used to be assumed that that knowledge only flowed into Wikipedia and not out. So we always said to instructors, when you run the Wikipedia assignment, you have a chance to influence the way Wikipedia covers your field of expertise, and that's certainly the case. But there was a study done at MIT a couple of years ago, and I can find this for anybody who wants to actually read it. But there was a study that actually showed that Wikipedia is actually influencing future research in a field. So somebody will contribute, to Wikipedia about a particular topic, and then 6 months later, let's say, the next paper, the next future research actually has language that is clearly drawn from Wikipedia and the way Wikipedia is writing about that topic. So not only do you have the chance to shape the way Wikipedia covers your field, but you actually have a chance to shape future research within your field in contributing to Wikipedia. And as I said, I can dig out that study for people who are interested. Okay, so I've talked a lot about why the assignment is pretty cool. But what does this assignment actually look like? What are the mechanics of the assignment? And I will show you a little bit more about that at the end of my talk. But as I mentioned, this is not an assignment to be taken lightly. So we've done this for 10 years. We've supported thousands of courses, and so we've made a lot of mistakes. And we've learned what doesn't work over and over again, in fact. So we have a set of best practices around the Wikipedia assignment. And obviously, and I think this is where I hopefully Nanette will give you a different perspective, we provide you guys with the skeleton, kind of the bare bones and structure of the Wikipedia assignment, but we're obviously not in your course. You guys know what's best for your students, what's best for you, and how to achieve your course objectives. But there are sort of certain things that I think remain fundamentally true across all of the courses that we support. So we recommend that the course run for a minimum of 6 weeks. And actually, most of the courses we support are actually throughout the entire semester. And I say that and people are like, oh my God, it's a semester-long project. And the way we've set it up, though, is that it's not meant to take over your class. It's meant to be done alongside your class, and a lot of the skills that your students are supposed to be getting from your course objectives are being achieved through the Wikipedia assignment. But we set it up to be very much a step-by-step building block process. So maybe the first couple of weeks, 2-3 weeks, students are just getting their feet wet. They're creating an account. Maybe they're learning even just how to evaluate a Wikipedia article, what makes it good, what makes it in need of improvement. They're maybe adding a citation, making one copy edit, starting to find their sources. So it's every week they're building up and up to what's going to ultimately be their final contribution into what's called the article main space. And that's the Wikipedia that we all know. Wikipedia has all these different spaces, but the article main space is where all the actual live articles live. And that's what we hope where your students will be at the end of the semester. It's not something that can be left to the last minute. If your student tries to do it all at 2 a.m. before the assignment's due, their work is going to get reverted right away. And it's also one nice, maybe nice or not nice thing about Wikipedia is that everything is timestamped, so you can see when they are beginning to work on their project. So as I said, most of the courses we work with are running throughout the semester, and we provide kind of a scaffold for how that plays out. Every course we support has myself and one of our on-staff, they're called Wikipedia experts. So we have 3 of our staff members are experienced Wikipedians themselves. And so they are there to answer any questions that you or your students might be having about policy issues. If your student runs into some issues with another editor, or they don't know how to move their work into the article main space, that's what your Wikipedia expert is there for. And we have a variety of channels to get help. We have developed a whole series of training modules and resources to train both you and your students on how to contribute to Wikipedia. We spent a lot of time developing these, and so we highly recommend that you and your students go through them to learn the basics of contributing to Wikipedia. Finally, we have this dashboard tool that I will be demonstrating to you in just a little bit. And that's kind of the equivalent of, say, Canvas or Blackboard or another, any of these course management systems, but it's specifically for the Wikipedia assignment. And I would say sort of that's the centerpiece and that will become the central hub of your Wikipedia assignment. Okay, so, we provide the basic structure, but at the end of the day, we're not in your classroom. So what I'm gonna talk next about are some of the do's and don'ts of the Wikipedia assignment that I have gotten from instructors over the past several years. So what are instructors actually doing on the ground to make this work, and what doesn't work? So here are some of I'll do the do's first. Flexibility. Above all else, this you being flexible, coming in with a flexible mindset with this assignment will serve you incredibly well. Wikipedia is a living site. Things may change at a moment's notice, and you kind of have to be prepared for that. It's an assignment where it's very difficult to set things like minimum word count, page length, et cetera, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But again, it's an assignment that's very different from a lot of the other assignments that you and your students have done in the past. So keeping that flexible mindset, being ready to change, and just knowing that you can't break Wikipedia. You and your students cannot break Wikipedia, I promise you. And so just don't panic at the end of the day. Devoting some regularly scheduled class time. So this is not something that we dictate. It's actually not in our the structure that we provide for you guys. But I've heard time and time again that, having some scheduled time where you can talk about the Wikipedia assignment, whether it's once a week, once every other week, once a month, whatever it is you decide for your course, but just having some time where you sit down with your students to gauge where they are in the project. What are they struggling with? Sometimes I hear professors say, my students are just stuck. And, they haven't actually talked to their students about the assignment in 2 months. So just having some time where they can sit down and talk about some of their issues, and you can kind of understand where they are, what you need to do for them as an instructor. And then also it helps us to figure out how to best help you. Aligning the Wikipedia assignment with your course content. So it can be very easy to view the Wikipedia assignment as something extra or external to the course. It can be very easy for students to get so bogged down in the technicalities of learning to contribute to Wikipedia that you feel as though the course is turned into a course on learning how to contribute to Wikipedia rather than learning the actual course content that you want to cover. So I think it's important at the outset of the course with your students to review Wikipedia's coverage of your your area of expertise or the course, the course that the content of the course that you're teaching, and trying to help them understand, why this project is so important about in terms of how it relates to the course and how it relates to the course content. So connecting those two as much as possible and as often as possible will be really helpful for you guys. Setting expectations. This one is, these are all important, but I'm putting the real important guys at the top here. Setting expectations. And this, again, I think goes back to that flexibility piece. The Wikipedia assignment is very different from most other assignments that your students and yourself, will have done and will have taught. It is, as I said, it's very difficult to set things like minimum word requirements. What a student can contribute to Wikipedia will depend so much on the topic they choose, the available sources, the state of the article when students begin to work on it. So most of our students actually work on existing articles. We do have some students create new articles, but the vast majority actually work on existing articles on Wikipedia that need further development. But what they can contribute will vary so much from topic to topic. So you don't want to set things like minimum word requirements because that ends up, it basically leads the students to pad their work and that work gets reverted on Wikipedia. So it's much more about quality and about the process. So a 300-word contribution to Wikipedia can be just as important as a 1,000-word contribution. It just depends on how much it's, improving the quality of a given article. And as I said, the process, the skills that students get from learning how to contribute to Wikipedia, that's really what this assignment is about. Obviously, you want them to learn something, you want them to make a good contribution, but shifting your students away from that, what's an A contribution, what's a B contribution, I think will go a long way. We do actually have a sample grading rubric. So, we're not gonna try not to leave you guys in the dust on this, but I think just making sure that your students know that and getting yourself into that mindset too, of that this is about quality and this is about the process will I think be very helpful from the beginning. So again, a couple sort of logistical things. If you can, spend some time with your students reviewing the dashboard. So that means becoming familiar with the dashboard yourself. This is especially tough for students because it's not going to be, on Canvas or Moodle, whatever it is. Actually, you guys are using Blackboard here at Berkeley? Is that?
Canvas.
You're on Canvas? Okay, when I was here it was Blackboard, I think so. We unfortunately don't have integration with those systems right now. It's something that we'd like to down the road, but we're a small nonprofit and our capacity is only so much. So they are going to have to go to a different website. And so just getting them used to going to another website from the beginning is really helpful, and just showing them how they can use it. And I will demonstrate the dashboard to you in just a few minutes. Emphasizing those training modules. I can't stress this enough. We get it, something will happen where a student commits plagiarism and, it's not malicious. They just don't understand the way plagiarism works on Wikipedia, and then we go and look and they didn't take the plagiarism training module. We spent a lot of time developing them. So just emphasizing that they're there and that they can return to them at any point in the term. Doing some of the activities with your students, or at least just having a sense of what your students are going to be doing. So as I've said, we structured this program to be sort of a building block type of curriculum. So, the first thing that they're going to do is evaluate an article, and then they're going to maybe add a citation, and then they're going to start exploring potential topics. So just looking at the timeline, we call it a timeline, so essentially the syllabus for the Wikipedia assignment. Just having a sense of, what's coming up, where should they be, will just be, very helpful for them, very helpful for you. Kind of this along the same lines, start small and early. This is not an assignment that should be left to the last minute, both for you guys and for your students. It's going to become incredibly overwhelming, and it's not going to be a positive experience for anybody. And so that goes for your students as well as you. You probably, for the Wikipedia assignment, it's going to be a lot easier to check in kind of every so often on where your students are. If you try to sort of tackle it all at the end of the term, it becomes a bit overwhelming. And it certainly can be done, but again, just what other professors have shared with me that have been helpful to them. This is the next one, applies to Corliss. If you can, find a librarian to work with. So I've heard time and time again that the Wikipedia assignment is often the first time students go into their university library for an assignment. We always find that funny and ironic because it's an assignment that's happening all online. But because sourcing is so critical for the Wikipedia assignment, students really need to understand what their library offers. So if you can partner with a librarian, and I think Berkeley is a great place, and you guys already have like a lot of existing structures to do that. Partner with with a librarian here, have them either come into your course and give a talk about how to use the library at Berkeley, or just somehow make them available for your students. I think it's a big help. I like this one. Let go of your guilt about not being a Wikipedian. You are not going to have all the answers. As I mentioned this earlier, we don't expect you guys to become Wikipedians. If you don't ever make an edit to Wikipedia, that's fine. Again, your role here is to be the subject matter expert and the instructor. I once talked with a professor a few years ago. He's been in the program for several years, and he said to me, he's like, I just used to constantly feel guilty. Every term, he's like, this is the one I'm going to learn how to, do this myself. And then finally he said, you know what? No, I'm just letting go of that guilt and realizing that, my role here is as the subject matter expert. So just keep that in mind. You're not going to have all the answers, and that can be, a bit of a challenge, being the instructor. But again, that's what we're here for. So you're not, we always have your back, and you're not alone in this. Lastly, have fun. This can be an incredibly exciting and fun experience for you and for your students. When you see that work go live, it's just an incredibly exciting and moment of accomplishment, I think, for both you and your students. And so really take pride in that and have fun with the assignment. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving pieces in this assignment, but kind of keep your eye on the prize, and you really can have a lot of fun with this. It doesn't have to be a scary, daunting process. Okay, that's all the things that I think you should do, and here are the things that you should not do. Again, this is based on the fact that we did all these things and learned that they did not go particularly well. So I think this might be relevant for some of the people here, but the size of the class. So we as an organization have a cap of 100 students in a course. We won't support courses that are more than 100 students. We've learned over the years that the Wikipedia assignment does not work well in large courses. And to be honest, we don't even have that many 100-person courses. I would say our average course is about 30, 40 students. Although we do support a number that are larger than that, but our cap is at 100. And that's because we've learned over the years, and we have tried this assignment many a time in sort of these large, several hundred student multi-section courses. And every time we've done it, it's ended in disaster, to say the least. Because what happens is, in a course of that size, it's difficult to manage everything. There's just so many contributions happening to Wikipedia. No single person can keep track of all of that. So you'll have one student that, does something pretty foolish on Wikipedia, either commits an act of vandalism, or they do something that gets themselves blocked. It happens in our smaller courses. But what happens in a case like that is that the Wikipedia community then jumps on that course, and they go through every edit your student has made with a fine-tooth comb, and it becomes a really negative experience for everybody involved, for you, your students, for us, and for the community. So we as an organization have set a cap at 100 students.
Quick question.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you have a bigger course, but only fewer than 100 working on that particular assignment, that's okay?
That is okay.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. So we've had larger courses where the professor just picks like a cohort of the course to do that. Yeah, exactly. And even then, I said 100 sort of pushing it. Like when there's a 100-person course, I talk to the professor, try to understand what they're trying to achieve. I strongly encourage group work at that level, because if you have to grade 100 Wikipedia entries, that's pretty challenging. So we can talk more about that later. But we are willing to do a situation like that. Avoiding controversial subjects. So your students are going to be super passionate about all sorts of things, and they're going to want to contribute to things on climate change and current political issues and abortion and whatever their passion might be. But these articles on Wikipedia, they're going to step into basically, well, some of them they can't even edit. They're going to be semi-protected pages, which means you have to have a certain amount of edits under your belt in order to even be able to contribute to that page. But they're going to get embroiled in like long-standing debates among editors that they do not want to get embroiled in. And they're just ultimately, at the end of the day, not going to be able to make a really meaningful and significant contribution. So we recommend students pick related topics in, more obscure fields, but related, to those broader topics where they can actually make a big difference. And they can have a real impact on Wikipedia, and they can do it without getting involved, in a debate between two Wikipedia editors that's been going on for 5 years. I said this already, but I'll stress it again. Minimum word counts. Do not set minimum word counts. If you do want to set some sort of standard for the assignment, going about it in terms of references is a much better way. So you could say, tell the students you need to have at least 3 references or 5 references or 10 references, whatever it is you decide. You want that number to be. That'll be a lot easier to enforce than a word count, because again, with the word count, what a true student can contribute is going to vary so much from topic to topic, and you don't want them padding that work on Wikipedia. This is just going to get taken down. Right, Wikipedia is all about being concise. Grading based on what sticks. Never, 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 ever, ever, and I will stress this again, ever grade based on what sticks on Wikipedia. Work gets reverted on Wikipedia all the time for a variety of reasons. What we don't want happening, and this does happen every single semester, is a student's work gets reverted, and it might not even be because the work is bad, but who knows? There's a million different reasons why that happens. And what we don't want happening is then the student to put the work right back onto the page and say something like, I have to have this up there because my professor has to grade it. There are a few things that will enrage a Wikipedian more than hearing that. So just make sure that you and your students know from the outset that everything your students do on Wikipedia will always be there. Even if it just gets reverted, it's in the contribution history. You're always going to be able to access that information from the dashboard or from Wikipedia itself. So just never base the grade on whether it actually sticks on Wikipedia or not. Lastly, don't go this alone. We've had so many professors in the past who said they tried this and they're like, it was awful, and they didn't know that we existed. And then they came and they did it with us, and they're like, oh, okay, this is much easier. It's a tough project. Again, learning Wikipedia expertise takes time, and time that most of you guys as instructors don't have. So please do it through us. We've cultivated a relationship with the Wikipedia editing community over the past decade. It's very strong. Students, when other Wikipedians see that a student is from one of our courses, they, I think, are a lot more accepting and welcoming of that new editor onto Wikipedia, because they know that we're behind the course. Okay, so I think now I've talked a lot about this assignment. So I thought now what I would do is go into some examples of student work. So this is Doug view. So, okay, so you have the deforestation in Cambodia. So I have 5 examples of student work here, articles that students have worked on in the past, and these are actually all from Berkeley. I made sure to pick all Berkeley articles. We've worked with a number of courses here over the years. So, and I've tried to pick articles that are from a range of different fields, and examples of both new and existing articles. So this first one, deforestation in Cambodia. So can you show the before link?
Yeah, before.
So this is the before. So this is the article before a student worked on it. Pretty bare bones, just like, I don't know, what is it, 7, 8 sections or something? Like pretty small as far as a conference. Okay,
2 sections.
2 sections. Okay, I don't remember. Yeah. So then now let's show the after. So this person greatly expanded this article. They added a whole bunch more sections, references, and this is a great example of what I was talking about, in terms of like wanting to write about a quote unquote controversial subject. So let's say that student wanted to, contribute to the climate change article. As I said, not a great idea, but this is a way of writing about that kind of subject, but in a way where they can have a much bigger impact. Okay, let's move on to the LGBT. Okay. So this next one, this is actually a totally new article. So there's no before and after. LGBT history in San Francisco's Chinatown. And what I really like about this article here, so it's a nice article. The student did a great job of sort of setting up the foundation of the article. But the Wikipedia assignment is really great in the sense that students can often really write about their own communities. Oops, I'm really long here. They can write about their Sorry. They can write about, their own communities, their own locations. So a lot of our students will write about their hometowns or their universities. It just depends on the course. This This was a course on LGBT history. And so they got to write about a place that's, near and dear to their university. The next one, I just thought the title of this was kind of funny, but Control of Fire by Early Humans. Again, this is a nice example of an expansion. So we can show that before link. And yeah, so again, kind of a minimal article. And then that after link. So again, they've just added a lot more sections, a lot more references to the article to really strengthen the character of the article. Okay, let's move on to the next. If you guys have any questions about it, just stop me, but I've got 2 more examples here.
I have a question.
Yes, of course.
So you mentioned in the previous article that there was the work of one student who created the whole article.
Yep,
on
that LGT, yep, one
Right.
student, yep.
So how common is that one person works on one article, and how common it is that they work in teams and groups?
So we
What
have,
would you suggest it?
yeah, so whether students work in groups or not is really dependent on, I think there's a lot of factors. I mean, it's ultimately your decision, and there's, benefits and advantages and disadvantages to both, right? If you have a larger class, working in groups reduces the number of articles that your students are working on, and so that can be, makes it easier for you to tackle at the end when you're grading. When they're in groups, it might take some of the anxiety that students can have around, contributing to, a public space. But actually, I don't know the statistic of how many of our courses do group work versus individual work. I can probably get that information. It's probably I would say more individual than group work, actually. It really just depends on what, it just depends on what you decide to do as the instructor. I would say for larger classes, definitely go the group work route.
So I have a follow-up.
Yeah, of course.
These articles seem very complete and thorough and big,
Mhm.
but sometimes you find on Wikipedia articles that are just a stump.
Yep.
So would those be, something the students could do, also like a stump for an article that would be eventually developed?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, creating a
This
stub
is
Mhm.
a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. Yeah, yeah. No, I said this is not, something to be taken lightly. It is, but absolutely create. We had one course once where I think all the students did was create 40 stubs, and that's incredibly useful to Wikipedia, right? Because those are articles that didn't exist, and now somebody else can go ahead and expand them, right? And sort of just for those who don't know, a stub is kind of the very beginnings of an article. So it's an article that'll just have 2 or 3 sentences on Wikipedia. Yeah, absolutely. Your student can definitely develop a stub. Yeah, so this is actually a great example of a student expanding a stub. So this Chinese National Carbon Trading Scheme, this was just a stub, the article that the student tackled. And then, so they turned it from probably a stub into a C class or something article. Articles on Wikipedia have classification. Yeah, so 4 sections. Yeah, so they took it from a stub class to, having 4 sections and a bunch more references. Okay, and then the last article is actually from the NETS course. I had to give a shout out to her course. So this is another example of a new article, Postmortem Privacy. I thought this was just a super cool topic. I love that book about Henrietta Lacks, and they talk about that here. So yeah, so these are just examples of what, and again, these are Berkeley students, have done for their Wikipedia assignments. Okay. Last but not least, I'm going to show you guys this magical dashboard that I've been talking about. So you can pull up that last one. That's perfect. So this was from a course that happened here at Berkeley in spring 2019. You're not logged in or anything to it, right? I don't think okay, good, perfect. So make sure that it's easier to show the not logged in version. Okay. Okay, so this happened in spring. So this is our dashboard. So as I said, this is the site that basically will be this more or less the central hub for your Wikipedia assignment. So I'm going to sort of take you through step by step. So in fact, when you decide to do a Wikipedia assignment, you're going to go to this website, and I plan on following up with everybody here with information and links, but you're going to go to this dashboard.wikiedu.org. You'll create an account there, and you'll go through a new instructor orientation. At the end of that orientation, you'll be prompted to set up your course page. So this is a course page, as I mentioned. We have an assignment design wizard that asks you a series of questions to help build out what the assignment is going to look like. And in fact, one of them is, do you want your students to work in groups or not? And based on your answer to that question, we provide different resources to you guys, whether you're working in groups or not, as well as a series of other questions. So here's a course page. So you have this, so first we're at the home tab here. So we should get the home tab,
Yes.
right? Okay. So this is where you'll just find basic information about the course description, details about the course, you as the instructor, how many students you have. It'll also show you what's the most recent assignment coming up. This is, your students actually have a slightly different view of this. We're working on being able to demonstrate how this looks for your students. They have a section on there called My Articles, and that's where they're actually going to see like all the different stuff that they're working on. Unfortunately, I can't show you that right now, but just to give you an idea of that. So then now let's move to the timeline tab. So this is this timeline I was talking about. I can sort of scroll down to show them what it looks like, Doug. So this is this week by week nature structure of the course, running for the duration of the semester, or for how many weeks you decide it's going to be. Some do 8 weeks, some do 10 weeks, et cetera, et cetera. So each week there's a different activity, a different exercise, a different training module, that your students are to go through. And you can always go to this timeline to just get a general overview of what the assignment looks like. Okay, the next one is the Students tab. So so this is the Students tab. So there's two major ways to see what your students did on Wikipedia: the Students tab and the Article tab. They're kind of inverses of one another. So you as the instructor will actually see your students' real names as well as their Wikipedia usernames. We're not right now, we're just looking at their usernames because we're not a professor for this class. So Doug, if you can go down to that first student in the list, and there should be like a little thing you can expand the row.
The little carrot on the right though.
Weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So here's where what you'll see is you can access your students' user page. You can access their sandbox, which is like a draft space on Wikipedia. The dashboard actually shows you which training modules they've completed and when they've completed them. And actually, one thing I forgot to mention for the training modules is we highly recommend you making it like a small part of the grade for the Wikipedia assignment. It's something like 5%, and the dashboard actually tracks, which modules they've done and when they completed them. And then it'll show you their 10 most recent edits on Wikipedia. And then it can also take you to their full contribution history on Wikipedia. So that's the Students tab. Okay, now let's go to the Articles tab. So I think the Articles tab, this is like, I think this is where you are going to be spending most of your time. And I actually am so happy. I just showed Nanette earlier a feature she didn't even know about on the Articles tab that I'm going to hopefully try for you guys today. So what this will show you is all the articles that your students have edited. Right now we're on the Articles Edited view. So that's anything your student touched as part of the assignment. You can also click on if you click on that Assigned Articles, do you see that? So there's articles edited, assigned articles, and available articles.
Signed, okay.
Yeah. So here's the assigned articles. So these are articles that your students actually said, I'm gonna work on this. Sometimes students as part of the Wikipedia assignment will edit some articles completely unrelated. And so you can actually see that in that articles edited. But here, so let's go to this, I think it's the first one, it's like Education in Guatemala. Is that right? See that?
See education, yeah.
Yeah.
On that?
Yeah, so don't actually click on it. So click on the carrot. The use assessment tools. You see that?
You have to go back to the.
Oh, you have to go back to that. Okay, I'm sorry.
Articles edited. Oops, at the top there. On the
Was
right.
that not in the?
Go back
Yep,
there.
go there.
Oh, sorry. Is it not in the assigned articles view?
Nope.
Oh, that's weird. I'm sorry. Okay.
So go.
Yeah. So go to that.
Is that-
The little, what looks like a document right there. Yep, that.
Thank you, Nanette.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay, and so use assessment tools, and then there should be this see with authorship highlighting.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
so let's pull that up. It's something like authorship.
Do you want the split screen?
Oh, is it particularly visual?
So what this does is remember what I was showing you earlier, Nanette, with the color coding?
Yep, that's showing it.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to show. So what this does is it basically color codes so you can actually see like what your students did on the article. So it makes it a lot easier to see like how exactly your student impacted this article, which is a vast improvement over the way this is presented on Wikipedia, trust me, which is kind of highly technical. So this is the article, and there's a bunch of other stuff here too that you can see like how many words or I guess characters the student added, how many references, how many views the article has gotten. So this is another one that's really cool. The dashboard tracks how many views the articles get within the term that you're doing the assignment. It doesn't track after that, but you can actually. So if you want to share, the impact of what your students did on Wikipedia, one of the nice things to talk about is how many times the work was actually viewed, to really show that their work is having an impact beyond the classroom. So why don't we go to the upload next one? Oh,
Yep.
so uploads, there's actually nothing here, but if your students do upload any media, a lot of our courses do upload media for their articles. This is where you could find which files they uploaded. The next one is activity. This one's a bit of a legacy from previous iterations of the program, but what it does is it shows you every edit that your students have made on Wikipedia in the past week. So it's a good way of getting a snapshot of where your students are. So if your students are supposed to be starting their drafts, it's a way to just quickly check in and see if that's actually what's happening. And the last one, this is actually a new one. We just launched last semester, the semester before, the resources tab. So this is where your students, you can always click on this to find all the stuff that's on your timeline, the training modules, the handouts, the exercises. We have some templated pages. It's all here. So they can quickly and easily find it. Okay. I think that was it. Any questions?
What's the total time that the training modules take? Like, do you have a number of hours or what?
Yeah, each module has like a time estimate. I actually don't know the total.
Okay.
They're all pretty quick. Like none of them are like they're all maybe like 10-minute exit. Like they're like they're not. None of them are like super long training modules. Yeah, they're all. They each do have a time estimate on them.
How many are there?
Oh God, I don't know how many we have. We can go back to the timeline and count them up, or maybe on the resources page actually for the group all the training modules. There's probably about for every course maybe about 7, 8, something like that.
There are also some optional ones if you're doing
Yeah.
bibliography or doing something.
Yeah.
Sorry, a biography. There's
Mhm.
optional ones you can take on.
Yeah.
And I have some students with me, so they can answer some questions too.
Oh, yeah.
about their
Mhm.
experiences
Yeah.
with some of the modules.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and they run the gamut. So we have, basic introductory modules to talking about plagiarism on Wikipedia to, how do you start a draft? How do you move that work out of the your draft space? How do you contribute an image and a media file to Wikipedia? Yeah, and that every course will have the same training module. So as I said, you'll go through an assignment design wizard, and based on your answers to those questions, that'll populate your timeline with some different resources.
Helene,
Yes.
some instructors and some students want to use Wikipedia as a space for advocacy.
Mhm.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and I've heard many a time that the Wikipedia assignment is for many instructors and students in active social justice. Right, I talked earlier about these content gaps, especially when it comes to kind of remedy, fixing the record on underrepresented and misrepresented populations, and that's great. But Wikipedia is not the place for outright advocacy. If you have a platform, Wikipedia is not the place to do it. And if your work is seen as promotional in any way, it's going to get reverted. But there's ways to be an advocate without being promotional, right?
So
So
just
just,
choosing the subject, right?
Yeah,
If you're
exactly.
writing about deforestation in
exactly,
China, that makes sense.
exactly.
But you have to do it in the Wikipedia way.
You do have to do it in the Wikipedia way. And that's where like one of my colleagues, Jamie, she likes to say that, that's one of the like big roles that we can play for you guys that, we don't make the rules for Wikipedia, right? We're a separate nonprofit organization. We have no control over Wikipedia's rules and policies. We are just, many members of our staff are Wikipedians and they might weigh in on policy, but they do that in their personal capacities. So we cannot, we can't change Wikipedia policy. I mean, we can ultimately hope to influence it over time based on the fact that we run this program and our students are having such a big impact on Wikipedia. But we can't overrule Wikipedia policy. So we, in a lot of ways, but we can kind of help you, I hate to use this word, but it's kind of true, game the system. So sometimes a student is like, I want to write this new article, and they go ahead and do it, and a Wikipedian's like, no, this is not deserving of its own article, and the student and the professor get really upset. And then they come to us and we're like, okay, well, yeah, by Wikipedia policy, this doesn't deserve its own article, but we can add it as a section in this article. So yeah, there's just ways of sort of getting around Wikipedia bureaucracy sometimes.
I teach in a foreign language,
Mhm.
so would these be possible to do also in a different language than English? Would it still
Yeah.
get support by the
Mhm.
team and so on and so forth?
Yeah. So and actually, I think Nanette, you can talk about this, right? Because your students have been doing some translation work. Yeah. So we do actually have a number of courses that do some type of translation. So a lot of our students, speak another language other than English, and they want to contribute to that other language Wikipedia. Right? There's something like 280 different language Wikipedias. English is the most well developed, so I think most of the time our students are actually translating from English Wikipedia into the other language. And the dashboard that we just showed you actually does have the ability to show you edits that your students make in other language Wikipedias. The only caveat there is that every language Wikipedia has its own set of rules and policies and community. Our organizational expertise is only on the English Wikipedia. So if your students run into problems on another language Wikipedia, there's not a lot we can do.
So
Yeah.
actually, I didn't explain myself. I didn't mean translations,
Mhm.
but I meant adding to an article in a foreign language rather than translating some.
Oh yeah,
content
no,
from
yeah,
English.
no, sorry. I mean, yeah, absolutely. My
But then
main,
you said that then there are other rules in the other Wikipedia.
yes. And that's the bottom line, that they can work on other language Wikipedias, and our dashboard will track the work in the same way that it does for the English Wikipedia, but we won't be able to provide you with the same level of staff support on that, because as I said, every language Wikipedia does have its own norms and policies, and our staff only
And
has.
this kind of program is not offered by other languages or.
So there are programs all over the world. So you might be able to, we might be able to help you connect you with one of those other programs that can give you the support on let's say you're working on whatever, French Wikipedia or whatever, Arabic Wikipedia, whatever it is. Yeah. We could probably connect you to people. Yeah. Any other questions? Cool. All right. Okay. So I think Nanette.
Hello, everyone. While the students make their way to the front, I just wanted to quickly figure out what departments everyone is from. English, art history, German, gender and women's studies, physics, and in the back, the two gentlemen in the back, what departments are you from? What department are you from?
Michael Mansfield, Theater, Dance, Performance Studies.
Oh, I've heard of you. So I asked that question because our project is an example of one where we've drawn students from departments all over the university. So the example that I'm going to give you will hopefully give you some insight into how you might massage the different tools that you've learned from Helene in order to help you build something that works for your students. So I'm going to briefly introduce the background on our project and how we sort of have uniquely used these tools to educate students on in these digital literacy skills, but then also helping them to take projects of their own interest and sort of take them forward. So my name is Nanette Coleman. I'm a PhD candidate in sociology, and I found my way to teaching with Wikipedia in the exact same way that you are now. So I walked into one of these workshops. Helene's counterpart, Samantha, was giving the presentation. Corliss was sitting on the side. I talked to the two of them, and 8 courses later, the rest is sort of history. So in terms of the 8 courses, they were taught across 2 universities, both here and one on the East Coast. Here, our work has been primarily in person, but I have taught Wikipedia online also, so I can speak to either one of those things. The classes have been primarily small, 20 students or less. We do have some examples where students have done translations. They have not done primarily in another language, but they have translated pieces that we have written. Unfortunately, my student who oversees that is not here, but I believe we're up to about 60 article translations in something like 10 languages that we've done recently. Of those 8 courses, we have 98 million views of the pages we've created and or edited, 317,000 words added, 2,630 references added. So I definitely ascribe to the we're behind this firewall and we have things we can access that people across the street cannot access. So our students only use peer-reviewed pieces. And then finally, 1,380 articles edited. So the articles we've created, as Helene mentioned, sometimes they stand alone, sometimes they get eaten by other articles and pushed into things. So, but we've had great success in that space too. So overall, what I'm going to do is talk to you a little bit about, I already told you how I found my way to Wikipedia. I'm going to talk to you about why I teach with Wikipedia, how I incorporate it into our class. I'll put class in quotes. There's a caveat there in terms of calling what we're doing a class. The actual process for students, the outcomes that I expect and that they tend to have over the last 8 courses, and then I'll leave a little bit of space there for questions if you have questions related to me as an instructor. And then from there, I'm actually going to turn it over to our students, and they're going to talk to you a little bit about their experience with Wikipedia. So what thoughts they had before they did Wikipedia, what made them want to do this project, what the experience like was creating those pages, thorns and roses. And then I'd ask them to actually think about how they might be able to incorporate Wikipedia into the classes in their own departments. So to be able to give an idea to you of how you might want to use this. And I think they've been with me, everybody, at least 2 semesters and some 2 semesters in the summer. So they are all fairly well versed with Wikipedia. And as far as I know, no one had ever edited Wikipedia before, right? No one? A little bit? All right, so why do I teach Wikipedia? My research is in privacy, cybersecurity, and surveillance. So much like many of you, and I'd say almost everybody who's an academic, our work touches the world, right? So I in my research and when I was interviewing people about their privacy literacy, I kept finding that there were basic concepts and also some more complicated concepts that most people didn't understand. So an example is I interviewed a person who worked for the military, and they were showing me, they're like, oh yeah, and they worked in privacy and cyber, and they were saying, oh yeah, I have kids, and you want to see a live feed of them in their nursery? And then they paused as they were thinking about it. They're like, wait a minute, if I can show this to you, other people can probably hack into that. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. So I just kept running into these people, some of whom know a whole lot about privacy, but many of whom don't, but are relying on different technological innovations to live their lives, but are also potentially opening themselves up to breaches. So I kept thinking, what can we do here that will allow people to learn more about these topics, but also help me get a better sense of not just the depth of the topics related to my research, but the breadth. So those content gaps, those knowledge gaps, the paywalls, that all sort of pulled me in, and I wanted to come up with a way to have this research touch the world and be accessible to the world. So I said there was a caveat with how I incorporate this into a class. So I'm not technically an instructor. So I am one of the many graduate students that works with a professor on URAP. So the way that I recruit students to work on my project is through URAP and the SMART program, and we have students who have done both here. So my project is underneath my amazing professor, Heather Havman, who's at the business school, but prior to that, it was with Ann Swidler over in sociology. So they're both faculty in my department. So I taught, I was a GSI for Soc 5, which is our research methods class. And the way that I approach this is as a means to help students understand the value of research methods outside of just the idea of becoming a professor. So being able to decipher when something is real or fake news. Being able to decipher if an input that you're considering into this article or into your conversation is a valid one. So I came at it from that. And in many ways, this is a flipped class. So a lot of the work that the students are doing are through this portal and set up in advance. So they're doing a lot of that work, and then we meet once a week on Fridays, and we check in on the work that they're doing. We do those checks. They also have a substantial peer process that happens also. So specifically, the process for students when they spend time with me working on this project, which is lovingly called "I regret to inform you that your private information has been compromised." And usually pulls somewhere between 40 and 50 applications a semester, which is kind of cool. So we start with the general intro to Wikipedia that Helene showed you. They're put onto the portal, and then we have core lists, and she has done this every semester, comes in and gives a library skills training for our students, and that's something that's possible in the library. Many students, seniors, freshmen, have never had that. So they get an introduction to where things are on the website, how to ask questions after hours. There's a wonderful chat function that I live and breathe by on the website, as well as how to find articles. After that, we go through a process of talking to them and giving them a basic education on privacy. They read the sociology of privacy. Does anyone remember the author's name? You met her. I know. So everybody reads this one article, okay? So they all read this article, and it gives them a basic foundation for privacy. And then we do an exercise to help them find what we call a privacy plus topic. So the plus is something they're interested in. So when I say that we have had students that have done everything, we've had students from molecular and cellular biology, computer science, women's studies, theater, math. I mean, what are our majors here right now? Math and computer science.
Cognitive science and data science.
Cognitive science and data science, and
Film and media studies.
film and media studies. So, and unfortunately, we're not going to be able to show you the beautiful, beautiful tables and graphs that Ash put together. But we've had, I mean, the majors that we've had on this project are insane. I mean, so the plus is something that they're interested in. So privacy plus could be privacy plus connected toys, privacy plus law, privacy plus. So we've got what? Spatial cloaking was your project.
Other neuroprivacy.
Neuroprivacy and
Participatory surveillance.
participatory surveillance. Did any of you know anything about any of those topics before you started? A little bit? Nothing. Okay, I was looking for nothing. Thank you. So they're able to bring something they're passionate about to the table, and I find that it actually keeps them pretty engaged. So privacy is the foundation of everything we do, but the plus is something that's interesting to them. So we do a whole exercise during one of our lab meetings that helps them to find that topic. After that, they build a bibliography. So we do one as a lab just to get them sort of used to that process. They're required to have articles that are at least 20 pages long from peer-reviewed articles. And they build a bibliography on that topic. And once we've worked with them and helped them find things that are useful for that topic, they set to work on annotating them. So we teach them a method of annotation. And so they spend a good part of the semester reading and annotating those articles. And then in the middle of that, they actually start to write their article. So someone asked the question, is it possible to just have them write stumps? So I feel like by the time you're writing a stump, you know so much that you probably could write the article. So we don't have limitations on how long our articles are for our students. So sometimes there'll be a few paragraphs, but I think our largest is DNA encryption, which is our molecular and cellular biology student. I still have no idea what that has to do with, but I read it, and it's amazing. She'd already been published before she joined us, and was fascinated by this topic and came and spent just one semester with us. And I mean, and it's thousands and thousands of words. So, but we also have ones that are much shorter. So every Friday we iterate through a process of me checking in if there's questions, problems, and difficulties, us checking their work and making sure they're doing their annotations, giving them feedback on them, and then also them getting peer support. So peer support comes in the way of other students that are sort of in the fray with them, but we also have students that come back after one semester and offer some ideas on what they can do to do their work better. And alongside that, just to keep them in the mix with Wikipedia, because sometimes there is a bit of a feeling of worry in making that first public edit, we actually have them start doing edits. We call them Add 5, Edit 5s every week. So they're adding new articles related to privacy to a list for us and doing edits on those pages. So it could be anything from capitalization and commas to adding a citation to correcting some grammar, all sorts of different things. But this is probably also one of the reasons why we've been fairly successful with our edits is we keep our hands on all the different privacy pages that are out on Wikipedia. And then finally, we have them, in addition to writing this encyclopedic article, they also write a blog post that connects with their topic that lives on our lab website. And then they also present their research at a symposium that we do just for the lab at the end of every semester. So we invite people from the privacy community, their faculty, people from all over the university will come, and the students will present the different topics that they've created. And I will completely agree with what Helene said, that I definitely have students who say, I showed this to my grandmother over Christmas break. You know, it's something that they do that doesn't get, I mean, I still probably have all my papers from when I was in college, you know? But being able to point to and say, I did this, yeah, I'm a pack rat. I did this, you know, and be able to show it to people. And once it's up there, students get very excited about adding more. So I'll quickly go over outcomes and we'll jump to getting some questions from the students. So the things that I tell them that they will work on when I meet them, when I first interview them, and that they do over the course of their time together are learning to read academic articles and learning to read them a lot faster and sort of decipher and pull things out of them. Research skills, writing with confidence in what I call sort of academic adjacent encyclopedic fashion, translations for some of my students, blog posts, learning to annotate, digital literacy, digital privacy, presentation skills, learning to do self-propelling work, because they see me on Fridays, but they are very much so on their own during the week. And we check in on Friday, but you know, they have to get it done. And I joke with them that, you know, the first couple of times you're gonna wait till the last minute, and then after a while you're not gonna do that anymore. You know, I don't even have to tell you because you're just like, my God, that was so much work, you know? The building of a peer group, especially for our students who, I have a large portion of international students in the lab, students of color, transfer students, and women. So we are primarily women. I'm not sure if it's the topic or, but every semester, overwhelmingly, usually there's like one or two guys. So it's been pretty amazing. So I wanna pause there and give you a chance to ask me any questions before I start giving the students a chance to talk a little bit about their experience. I wanted to show you sort of the way that a case of how one person did this, but there's lots of different ways to do this. So I can pause for a second. Yes?
I think you just said interview the students. That is to say you select the students, they don't select the class.
So it's not a class. So with URAP, because
okay.
yeah.
So they're all URAP.
Yes, URAP or smart students. Yes.
I see.
Yes. So I usually land somewhere. I mean, our largest has been about 60 applicants, and it's just that it would be a bit much. So my sweet spot is around 20. That number grows when we have students that return from the previous semester, and I tend to tell them, you know, whether you spend one semester and you love this and you want to stay for. I have a student who's been with me for almost 4 years. Or you do one semester and go, God, I definitely don't want to do research. But you take these skills and use them in other areas. I find that to be a win. So.
I just want to jump in and just say that I would say that you're pretty exceptional in that fact, Nanette, that you have you know, repeat students who are doing this term after term. You know, most of our courses that they're just traditional courses.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Any more questions? Okay. So I wanted to give the students a chance to introduce themselves. So name, major, year, how long you've been on Wikipedia now, and talk a little bit about your article. Okay. Just talking to them. There you go.
Hello everyone, my name is Amber Du and I'm a sophomore majoring in applied math and computer science. So I joined Column Lab since spring 2019, so this is my second semester here.
Major and tell me about your article.
Oh, so about my article, my Wikipedia article was about spatial clocking. So that was one of the techniques that people use to preserve location privacy. So as Nada mentioned earlier, that I have no experience with this topic. So I start by reading all of the papers that people wrote about spatial clocking. So this is actually a broad topic that we have different techniques and different algorithms. So by starting with reading all of those like different technologies, I have a general idea of what spatial clocking is and what it does to like help preserve the location privacy. So after that, and after like doing all of the 20 annotations, I started writing my own draft of spatial clocking that we're gonna put on the main page of Wikipedia. So after writing my own draft, we start with the peer review process, and during that process, many of the lab members give me a lot of advice of like some of the weak points that I have on my draft, and also the basic structure of my article and how can I improve it. So after that, I targeted more papers of the different technologies, such as like cytography, and we have anonymity. So I read more papers that are targeting in different algorithms and like the technologies. And so after that, I kind of like improve my article. And also one thing that helped me a lot was to talk to my GSI and my friends who study computer science and the different majors and try to explain what spatial clocking is to them, and let them like they give me a lot of feedbacks of if my draft was like understandable, or if there's more place that I need to clarify a lot. So this is how kind of like I improve my article. Yeah. So this is my experience with Wikipedia at Column Lab.
Testing. My name is Ash. I am a fourth year data science and cognitive science major, and my article was on neuroprivacy. And in case you're wondering what that is, it's essentially brain privacy, what rights your thoughts and your brainwaves have. And currently, they don't really have any because it's not really a subject that's come up a lot. So that was sort of challenging for me to find sources for my article. As you know, everything on Wikipedia should be responsibly sourced. I was fortunate enough to find essentially a published academic book, which was a collection of papers published by various authors in different fields, ranging from physiology, neuroscience, philosophy, law, politics. There was a wide array of fields that my subject touched on, and I was lucky enough to find this really great source, and they were all from different authors, and they were all peer-reviewed academic sources, so I was able to use that, and that sort of led to me wondering how I should structure my article. I think that was the biggest issue for me because I've read Wikipedia a lot, I've used it before, it's a very helpful thing, but I think once you're writing it, you realize it's not so easy to structure it because, do you put it in chronological order, or do you put it in terms of fields, or do you put it in terms of what questions people have about it? So I think once I had the structure down, writing it was a lot easier. Yeah, I also enjoyed adding a popular culture section to my bottom of my article. I think that's something more people should do.
Savannah?
Hi everyone, my name's Savannah. I'm a fourth year film and media studies major, and my page is participatory surveillance, which was actually something I learned in one of my media studies classes, but was never anywhere online. So, and I noticed that with a lot of like emerging media studies terms that they just weren't on Wikipedia, and that's how I used to find a lot of articles was on Wikipedia. I would always go to the references section and kind of get my start there. So participatory surveillance is basically how people surveil each other on the internet, either through like search engine queries or social media, or this can be any content that you put on the internet yourself or that you didn't even know was there. But then also through my research, I learned that there were 2 other subfields with like ecological fieldwork, which had to do with using like rural communities to kind of track emerging disease outbreaks. And then also infodemiology, which is fairly new as well, which is where scientists will actually look at social media patterns on Twitter and other health organizations to see when diseases are happening and when they're happening like sooner than it would be through traditional means. So I thought that was really cool, new field of research. My process making it was really, really fun actually, although it was a lot of work, definitely more than normal research groups on campus, I think. But it was the most rewarding experience I've had, being able to make something that others can use and benefit from, and also such like a valuable type of theme to be working on, especially because intellectual property is such a big issue right now. So, yeah.
So adding on to what Savannah said, it's an example I use often. Most of the students in the lab found a new page, and my favorite example is social profiling, which is something that many people are now familiar with because it's something that's actively happening in China. So the social profiling page was founded by one of the students in our lab when she was 19. And if you Google social profiling several years later, it's the first thing that pops up. So this 19-year-old student at Berkeley prepared this project, and now anybody in the world who Googles this topic, they're reading her words. And it's like 3, 4, 5 years later, you know? And I tend to use that example with students because especially at Berkeley, people come here because they want to do something, you know? In addition to the amazing things that they're learning, they want to do something. And this is a way that students can do something beyond whether they're amazing public speakers or leaders or, what you can come to this however you are and leave an impact, you know, and I find that quite profound. So I'll throw the questions out and whoever wants to answer can. So what were your thoughts on Wikipedia before you started the project?
I don't know about you guys, but my teachers always told me not to use it. And then I got to college and they were like, you can use it as a starting point, which I thought was absolutely crazy. And then I really got to know that you can really assess how good an article is like by the grade system that they have, which is something I didn't know about until I started taking the Wikipedia training on the modules. And you can just kind of see what articles are more developed versus others that are just getting their start. So.
And then what made you all want to do this project and do something with Wikipedia? Because you knew about it when you were interviewed. What?
So for me, I started doing editing Wikipedia page in my freshman year before coming to Column Lab. And at that point, like Wikipedia to me was more like a tool for me to like get familiar with some technical terms that I encountered in my study. Especially as an international student, we sometimes learn English via Wikipedia. Like we search some terms and then it would come like pop up some explanations in English. So I think after my first experience with Wikipedia, I found there are more like some of the sentence explanations could be subjective to like different opinions, and people usually have their own opinions like in writing of those Wikipedia articles, and that is why that we kind of like want to improve it. So this is kind of like my first experience with Wikipedia, and that makes me more want to kind of like improve the article and also expand the world of the like different topics, because there are also some topics that are not included in Wikipedia and could be useful for like other students or scholars of like learning these subjects.
We've actually started talking to folks at the Wiki Ed Foundation about doing a search to see what articles we can pull from other languages into English. You know, because the idea that the only things that should be translated from English to another language are there's lots of amazing things out there. So that's something that we're looking into. So I'll finish off because I want to leave time for Corliss. I ask you all to think a little bit about how you might be able to incorporate Wikipedia into a course you're already in, or any advice you might have for faculty who might be teaching a class using this for the first time. So I'll give you each a little bit of time to talk about that. Who wants to go first? Ash? Thank you.
I think assigning students to write individual Wikipedia articles can be challenging, not just because it's a large endeavor, but because there are many Wikipedia articles that already exist, and for you to create a new one and have its existence be justified can be a little difficult because it means you have to write about a very specific or niche thing. But even if you're not set on writing an article, I think editing articles in a certain subject is just as valuable because you have to look at their citations, you have to look at their structure, you have to look if they're subjective or not. And I think editing Wikipedia really helps you question assumptions, which I think is one of the fundamental things we're trying to learn here. I think if you have students look for different sources and see how they compare to what Wikipedia articles say, it introduces a level of critical thinking, and if they find something that's questionable, they can edit it themselves, which I think is a really good thing both for them and for Wikipedia.
Savannah?
I think especially for me, this is a pretty easy question just because media studies is so online. And there are a lot of topics that are emerging, like as we speak, just with like how soon Web 2.0 came around and just how things are evolving with like social media and audience studies and like critical theory. So I think it's important to really look into pre-existing pages and keep on developing those pages based on what's coming out as it's happening. So I think that's how it would really fit into my major especially.
So for me, when I think of incorporating Wikipedia into my major, which is applied math and computer science, something I can think about was to making graphs and animations in different subjects. So that was something I encountered when I was doing my own research of spatial clocking. There are a lot of, not a lot, but some pages have animations and graphs which kind of help people to understand what basically the structure of the algorithms, or what are the transformation of the graphs, I think. So I know there are lots of pages about some math technical terms or computer science technical terms, something like that, but sometimes they don't have animations or graphs. And I think by making those animations, graphs, students themselves do that, it will help them to clarify what that actually is and help them to kind of trying to explain the term to more audience.
And it's time to pass it on to Corliss, but I will say I'm happy to spend some time afterwards. So this represents part one of what we do with students when they're first entering our lab and learning how to use Wikipedia. But moving forward, what we try to do is utilize their specialized skills. So for example, Ash does some statistical analysis for us. And we do have other students who come to us and say, I'd love to do this with that data or with the work that you're doing, and we open up other opportunities. So who knows, maybe there'll be a 2.0 workshop on this at some point for people who've been doing this.
Hi, everybody. My name's Corliss Lee. I'm the American Cultures Librarian. Hi. And I'm also, thank you. I've also had a little experience supporting courses with Wikipedia assignments, and I'm also on the committee at the library that helps to sponsor the edit-a-thon. So I have my fingers in a little pies. I am not an expert on Wikipedia, or even I would say a regular Wikipedia editor, but I think I can still be helpful to you. So as you've heard, Wikipedia wants articles to be based on scholarly sources if possible, at least certainly verifiable, reliable sources. So we agree with them. Your students' pages are more likely to be sticky, to stay up if they're based on unreliable sources. So raise your hand if you think your students know how to find these already. That's what I thought. And if raise your hand if you think your first year students even know for sure what a scholarly article looks like. Oh well, okay, you, but besides you. after all this. And that's the great thing about this assignment. After this, they will. Okay, they'll know those things. So we can help you with that. Well, that's what many things the library does. We do workshops for any UC Berkeley class class or group of students, like Nanette's class, which is not a class, which has a research assignment. Okay, so whether it's a Wikipedia assignment or not, we like to get 3 weeks notice if possible, or it's always better. We do like to schedule the workshops for a time when students are going to be doing their research. Sometimes instructors, with the best of intentions, say, the paper is due the last week of the semester. I want this workshop the first week of the semester so that they'll start thinking about it. And I have to gently disabuse them of the notion that they will start thinking about it anytime until about 3 weeks before the paper is due, if you're lucky. So we think that it's better to do it around the time that the students are going to be doing their research, and honestly, that's usually their deadline, which is why we're a big fan of interim deadlines. And as you see, it's really important to stage this assignment, to stagger the deadlines and to give people a lot of structure around this. There's a web form on the library homepage under the information for faculty page where you can just fill out all the information we need. And I'm actually the person who gets that web form, so I'm then happy to find the right person. If you're already working with a librarian who's already done your workshop, that would be great. Continue to do that. That person can do the workshop for you, or I'll find the right person. Depending on what it is, I might do it. It all depends. But most of the librarians on campus teach. This is something that's important to us. Information literacy is very important to us. Digital literacy, if you're wondering, if it seems surprising to you that the library might want to support Wikipedia, first of all, research assignments are very important. But information literacy and digital literacy and even the democratization of information, those are actually things the library is about. So that's what we're doing. So strongly recommend the library workshop. Research assistance for individuals also available, and Nanette mentioned that. And maybe it's easier if I go live to the library webpage. So if you haven't seen this before, under the Help tab, there's a Research Help link, and that's all the different ways that anybody from the first year student to faculty can get assistance. So Nanette mentioned this best thing ever, 24/7 chat. So they might close on Christmas and Thanksgiving, I'm not really sure, but the rest of the time they're available. I tell students they should not be doing their research at 3 a.m, but if they are, there'll be somebody there. It's a national cooperative, so it's not me there at 3 a.m, thankfully, but someone from another state. We're all trained to help each other's students. So we help students with complicated research questions, and we help them with the classics, where can I find my article? What the heck does this mean? I can't get access from off campus. And the classic on-campus question is, where is the bathroom? And occasionally you can help them with that here too if they have a good floor plan on their website. Make an appointment is mostly for lower division undergraduate students, so they can get a half-hour appointment with a librarian. They can either pick somebody they know, or they can just say whoever's available Thursday at 12. Everybody's encouraged to drop by the Dill Library reference desk, 10 to 5 Monday through Friday. People still call us, people email us. Find your librarian is how you find the specialist in your field, and that's what we recommend for graduate students and faculty. But however you want to get help, we hope that there's a way to do that. So I've summarized all that here. Some of the other libraries also have reference desks, so a place you just drop by. But if not, there's all sorts of online ways to get assistance. Do we have any questions about this part? And then I'll mention, again, the edit-a-thon. So I'm on a committee. The library partners with American Cultures and some other units on campus to sponsor this. Art and Feminism is actually a national, maybe international program now to surprisingly, to add more articles in these areas. So this is, I think it's during the month of March, there are Art plus Feminism editathons all over the country, even all over the world. At Berkeley, we added Race plus Justice. I think Victoria had a little something to do with that. But as a matter of fact, anybody can come and they can edit articles about any topic. We're certainly not restrictive. We have suggestions about topics like this. Mostly what happens is people are just learning the basics and doing small edits. You don't have time, even in 5 hours, to write an entire page. And there's really no need to do that, especially if you're a beginner. If somebody logs in and sort of gets the basics and maybe does a little bit of editing, adds a citation, something like that, I think that's a great start. We do little workshops during the editathon, which people can come to or not. There are snacks and drinks. So it's sort of a good way to get people to come and feel a little bit of community. And we will, I think, have your email addresses so we can send you a reminder about the event. And everybody's welcome. You can send your class. Well, the room will fit maybe 30 people, so maybe not your huge class, but people can drop by at any time. If you have questions about the library support, get back to my email address. And I also have, if any of you are into the vintage small pieces of cardboard, that we still give those out. I have those as well. Questions about the library or any aspect of that? Has anybody had library workshops before for their classes? Okay, good. Yeah. Hopefully you found them helpful, and I think they're really, really necessary for this kind of assignment. The Wikipedia thing, everything is new, and then to add the library research, which is new also, I think that's just a lot. So we're looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
I think folks are going to be hanging around. We can hang out here for a little bit. We've got until 2:30. Yes, I have a
I do
question.
have a quick question about the student profiles that people create. Like, how private are those? Do they get linked up with? What kind of email do they have to have? I want to understand, because I feel a little bit nervous when I hear that students can post things. They're decided that someone decides that their work is not good enough and then runs through everything else that they've posted in order to kind of look at it. Like, to me, especially working with a lot of women and students of color who already face harassment online, I used to have students get on Facebook, for example, or Twitter, and have stopped doing that entirely. And I just want to understand if those profiles are kind of private, walled off, it just is proprietary and belongs to Wikipedia only, or how does it work?
Yeah, so from our end, and I can always put you in touch with our tech guy who manages our privacy policy, but we at Wiki Education collect the students' real names and usernames, but the only people that can see those are you, the instructor, and us as administrators of the Blackboard.
Good. Yes.
But not on Wikipedia. So the only thing people can see on Wikipedia are usernames, and so we always encourage students to pick usernames that are like not their name.
Okay.
Right? So like, and many of our students do pick their name, but we strongly discourage that. So on Wikipedia itself, it's just going to be their name. People will be able to see that they're connected to this course, that you're participating in as part of our program, but they won't be able to see who their actual names. The only people that can see that are you and us.
Okay.
And that's it. And I would say in the 5 years that I've done this, I have encountered just a handful of cases of harassment. It's not impossible, but it is not fun. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Just one question, as I'm living here for China, I wonder if you have a lot of the virtual resources that can be used for. I cannot go to this kind of seminar or this kind of lectures. Do you have some kind of link that I can use in China?
Yeah, so I'll let you two address, but what I will say is, so everybody who came to the event as well as those who registered, we're going to be sending the links that both Lynette, as well as Helene, Corliss, myself have mentioned during this presentation. we're also recording this, so we will be sending a link to that to everybody here as well as people who registered but couldn't attend. So you'll have that, but if there's any specific that you want to shout out now, either Elaine or Nanette.
Yeah, so the main one, I guess the main one for us is that dashboard.wikiedu.org. And that's where you can go to basically if you want to do this. That's
Is
where
it
you
blocked
go.
in China? Or he said he's going back to
Oh,
China?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question. Is it blocked in China? I don't know.
Wikipedia is right now.
Wikipedia, yeah. So we only support. So just to clarify, this we only work with institutions in the U.S. and Canada. As I mentioned, there are global programs that do this in each individual country. But as an organization, we can only, as part of our bylaws, work with institutions in the U.S. and Canada. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. But I can. We have a lot of connections. To these education, Wikipedia education programs all over the world, so can always give you contacts.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of timeline, and I guess it's for both of you, how long in advance is advisable to sort of talk to your group and with the project in mind, and how long it takes to organize, say a six weeks project for your class for next semester? I mean, is it too late now for next semester?
From our perspective, no, not at all. So I literally to give you, this is not ideal, but I had some fall 2019 courses sign up in November, which is it had been cases of people had been doing this and then all of a sudden discovered that we existed and wanted to work with us. So, I would, if you wanted to try this in spring 2019, I would certainly start looking at the materials now. And we typically, I'd like to see course pages up and running at least a week before the start of the course. Although professors, like students, sometimes leave things to the last minute. So I would say that my busiest months of the year are August, September, and October, and December, January, and February. So they continue to roll on in. But I will say, give the sooner you do it, the better. But in terms of actually, going, let's say you're okay, I want to do this, going to the dashboard, registering, signing up, going through the wizard, etc., probably will take you an hour and a half, a couple hours, something like that. It's not super long. But you might be able to. You've been doing this for a long time. So
And you can also keep going back to it and editing it. So one of the things I tell my students to do is they're not allowed to jump ahead. So that gives me the opportunity to teach them where we're at, and then also if I need to edit stuff in the future, I can change it. So it's not static once it's up. You can continue improving.
Yeah, exactly. So once, let's say, you go through the whole process, you set up, you submit your course page for my approval. Yeah, exactly. But then you decide, oh, actually, I want to switch weeks 7 and 8, whatever it is. You can always go back and do that. Yeah, nonsense. So.
But it has to be a very, detailed sort of.
Yeah, we
step by step.
Yeah,
Week 1, 2, 3, and 4.
We feel honestly there are many I would say actually most of our professors just use the template that we put out and that's it. Not I think you do it for every customization.
And then you can clone it. At
Yeah.
the end of the semester you clone it, go in and just change your dates and you're all set all over.
Yeah, so if you do decide to highly customize it, which you can, you can then clone that page going forward, so it's not you don't have to reinvent the wheel every semester. But I would say from my experience, most just leave it as is. They might be using some other stuff that I don't know about, offline, but that's fine. But we really do set up that structure for you.
One thing that's useful for me as a graduate student, and I'm assuming everybody's faculty, but when you go from one institution to the other, your Canvas stuff or your Blackboard stuff stays behind. This is mine, so it's always in Wikipedia, and I can take it here from wherever I go.
And we've had several professors who go from institution to institution, and they don't have to do anything on our end. Just tell us that they're in a different institution. Yeah, but the assignment structure functions the same. And as Doug said, I will send you guys out a follow-up email just with with these links, and so you have my email if you have any questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, and thanks to Nanette and Helene and Nanette's wonderful students and Corliss. Concludes our event.